For over 100 years, Americans have loved their Chevrolets, and some of the finest examples of timeless bow tie style are on display here at the Menards Chevy Show. Welcome to Bandimere Speedway, just outside of Denver, Colorado. This track is unique in the racing world. It sits at 5,800 feet above sea level, and it's not just in the mountains. This place is actually dug into the side of a mountain. The scenery is spectacular, the racing is spectacular, and the Menards Chevy Show cars, well, they're spectacular too, so let's get started. Our RockAuto.com Restored Award winner is a beautiful 1969 Camaro Rally Sport ZL1. Spencer Wetherill from right down the road owns this thing. You've had it for about a year and a half, Spencer.
Yep.
But how long has it been finished?
About 9 hours ago. And we love coming to the Chevy Show, so we worked our butts off last night till about 9 o'clock trying to get this car finished.
What makes this car different and special from other 69 Camaros?
Well, it's got the Rally Sport front end. The big thing is the ZL1 aluminum 427 engine. It's an all aluminum motor. When we dyno this engine, it's about 600 in horsepower, 629 in torque. I mean, just amazing motors. So I'd actually like to get it to Bandimere to try this on the track, see what it'll do. Chevrolet back in 1969, the normal ZL1s did not have any badging on them. They were done as a sleeper. Vince Piggins did 2 prototype cars. They were black and gold. One was an automatic, one was a 4-speed. And then he put the ZL1 badging on it. So I got with Chevrolet, got the blueprints for the badging, and we had these ZL1 badges recreated for this car.
How much did you rely on Rock Auto, and what kind of parts did you get from them to put on this car?
Rock Auto-wise, we're getting a lot done. I had to order some parts that were back-ordered with other companies, and they had it all in stock. So luckily, the headliner, a lot of the finished stuff, dome light lens, all that stuff. So they definitely saved us because they had it in stock, and we were able to get it last week and get it put on the car for the show.
What do you like about using Rock Auto?
You know, the good quality parts, shipping was right away, which was really nice. I ordered it, they shipped it out that day, and I told them I was in a hurry, needed this stuff. They took care of me, and we were able to get the car to the show.
We're glad you made it, Spencer, the winner of our Rock Auto Restored Award. Edgar Reffett has a great-looking '64 Impala, and it's this week's first producer's pick. How long have you had the car, and how'd you find it?
Well, it's 10 years. We got it out of, if I remember correctly, out of Tennessee. It took 5 years to build. Every nut and bolt in the car is all new and everything. It was a free, rust-free, Bondo-free car. So it was a 5-year build. After 5 years, and I started taking it. On the build itself, we got roughly 11,000 miles on it. The 327 that was in it was blowed up. And so we decided, a few of my friends encouraged me to go with a 350 and with a mild cam, stuff like that, crate motor. So that's what we put in it.
How important was it for you to keep this car looking like the original?
I like cars that are stock looking, and there's a few cars in this show that are very stock looking. And I wanted to keep it as original as I possibly could. Hubcaps and all that. You know, I'm from the old school, and I like cars that look original, even though the motor has been changed in this vehicle. I'm not into all that odds and ends stuff like some other guys are. It's just not me.
Stick around because you're going to love this Tri-5 coming up on the Menards Chevy Show.
Menards Chevy Show is brought to you by Clamp Tight, the clamp making tool. DJS Fabrications, the best mobile car dolly built today. Evapo-Rust, super safe rust remover. And by Dustless Blasting, it's the future of surface preparation.
Welcome back to a mile-high edition of the Menards Chevy Show. If you like cars from the 1950s, then you are going to love this segment. Zing T helps kick it off with a 57 that's naturally cool.
I didn't want it stock, but I didn't want it heavily modified either. I just wanted to make it just a smooth look. I wanted everything to flow, the paint, the body modifications that I did, I wanted to be subtle but different, but not radical. And the engine is a crate, General Motors, 383 stroker, aluminum heads. The fuel injection is Hillborn.
How important is it for you also to keep this era of cars in people's consciousness and to keep this thing alive?
Most of the young kids will tell you, when my grandpa had one of these, or my mom or dad had one of these, and so that the 57 brings back a lot of memories. It was the Tri-5, 55, 6, and 7, what great years for Chevrolet.
It's a great car, it's beautiful, but one of my favorite things about it is the name. Tell us about that.
The name is Fragile but Agile, named after a P-51 Mustang that flew out of England in World War II. I'm a history buff of World War II, and I'm concerned about a lot of kids not learning much about that in school. What those people did for us was amazing. So I hand out flyers, 3-page flyers about World War II, and since I've been showing this car now, this is the third summer, I've handed out almost 500 flyers to people. And it's amazing. Some of the people know nothing about it. Some of the people have relatives that were in World War II, and it's a very rewarding for me.
A great car that's naturally cool. Brought to you by Zingti. It's a 1954 Chevy pickup and it belongs to Scott Mixon. And Scott, this thing hasn't always looked like this, has it?
No, it doesn't. Not always. No, when I first got it, it was typical work truck from '54 Chevy. Had a rust in it and dents and dings and stuff like that. It had some rust. The cap corners were rusted out, and the inner kick panels were rusted out. Other than that, it wasn't too awful bad.
So when did you decide to tear it down? What was the final straw?
When I put it sideways on I-70, trying to stop in traffic, because it just wouldn't stop.
When you do a project like that, how does it start?
You just kind of start tearing things apart and looking at magazines and going on the internet and looking for parts and trying to decide what you want to build. I knew I wanted to put a Chevy small block in it, and I wanted to change the front end to something I could handle it better, take a straight axle out of it. Just start taking things apart. It's just a tune port, small block 86 Corvette, 350 Chevy with a tune port fuel injected. So it's got a 700 R4 automatic transmission.
And the office is pretty sweet there. The interior looks great.
Yeah, seats are out of a 2000 Chevy pickup when they cut the tops off to match the seat belts.
Some gorgeous woodwork there back in the bed of the truck. How much of that did you do yourself?
I did all it myself. That's oak wood, and then I stained. I wanted something a little different, so it's a gun stock stain, so it'll make it look a little different from everybody else's. But I did the work myself.
How much pride do you take in knowing that you did this much work on this truck?
A lot. It was a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of mess ups. Some things I had to do twice because I messed up the first time, but I did it all myself, and it was a lot of fun most of the time.
Well, let's move down the row from an orange Chevy pickup to another gorgeous orange Chevy pickup. This one's owned by Dakota Hornbeck. And Dakota, you're only 20 years old, so you can't have been working on this truck for that long.
Well, actually, I've been working on it about 4.5 years, and we just got it done a few months ago.
What is it like to get all that kind of knowledge from your dad and from your grandfather?
It's really cool. I mean, my grandpa knows so much about tearing down cars, and I never thought I'd have someone to learn from. And then my dad had this truck sitting around, and he's like, well, why don't you fix it up with him? And we started, tearing it apart, and I think we got a little carried away, but it's all done.
How important was it for you to keep this looking like the original?
I mean, I just like the stock look of the truck, so I didn't want to do anything too custom or cut anything up, so we tried to leave as much stock as possible. The frame is totally intact, and as many of the badges that we had, we just put back on there, and just making it look, I think it looks better than new, but...
What do you have under the hood?
It's a 350 crate motor, so nothing too fancy, but gets it around. It's actually a factory V8 truck, so we had to put a V8 back in it.
What surprised you the most about working on this truck?
I just think that there's so much that goes into making the paint look good. You have to do a lot of body work, then you've got to prep all the body work you think you're done, and then you have to wipe it all down again, and then you paint it. It's not done. You have to color sand it and buff it out and everything. And if you mess up any of those steps, then you'll look down at the truck at the end of the day and it'll wave back at you, which you don't want at all.
Cars are in your blood because you've been working here at Bandimere Speedway for a while. What do you do here?
I work down at the fuel store, and I've worked there probably about 5 years, just a part-time job. It's just nice to hang out and enjoy the racing, see the cool cars.
How much inspiration did you draw from some of the cool cars you've seen that are racing here?
It's hard to compare, you know, they're race cars, so they're a lot different, but it always gives you some cool ideas on what you see and what you don't like and what you see and you do. Some of the clean cars that I've seen here, I really, you know, drew from onto the truck.
Still more Chevrolet showpieces on the way as the Menards Chevy Show rolls on from Denver. We're at Bandimere Speedway this week, just outside of Denver. And while racing continues on the track, we head up the mountain to the pit area. That's where we found Mike Kalhoff and his GMC 1500 Super Custom.
It was found alongside of a barn back in '96 in Tilden, Nebraska, south of Tilden. And when I went up and looked at it, it was rough, it was ugly. And I just opened up the hood and seen what was underneath the hood, and then I went through it and seen all the extras that was on it, and seen it was something that nobody showed at car shows, so I thought I'd give it a try and put it together.
Once you walked up to it, what made you decide to buy it?
The big block 402 underneath the hood, the front and rear air, and the cargo doors, and the four-wheel drive was all sitting there just waiting to be used up by something like this.
What have you done to this? What makes it special?
I just put it back to the way I seen it and added a few extras that I thought needed to be done to it. 700 R4 transmission out of a '89 Suburban. Put disc brakes all the way around on it.
How much of this did you do yourself?
All of it except the seats on the inside. Everything else was done by me and my two sons. It's mainly basic interior. It's black interior. I just dated it up a little bit, put a stereo in there, put a different steering wheel that was found in a U-Pull-It junkyard. It was in another car, and I thought, well, it might be a good one sometime to take home and use. I put it in there. My daughter didn't like it, but everybody else did, so I left it in there.
Majority rules.
Yes.
How much do you drive this?
Quite often. We took it to the Hot Rod Power Tour in June, drove it all the way to Bowling Green, Kentucky, and then all the way over to Raleigh, North Carolina. It had a few problems, but it still made it home.
The scenery and the friendly staff make Bandimere Speedway a favorite among racers, and from April through October, it might be the busiest track in the country.
We're the host of the Dodge Mile High NHRA Nationals. We also run a no prep race. We run specialty events for every make and model of vehicle you can imagine. So, you know, our season really runs April through October, and we try to stay as busy as we possibly can, 4 to 5 nights a week.
What are some things that make Bandimere special?
Well, first of all, obviously we have thin air. I don't know if that's special or not, but it is a challenge. And then we also have a cooling system that we can cool the first 330 feet of the racetrack. So where we lack in air, we can kind of compensate in some other areas to help with the racers with traction and their performance.
Because of the altitude, it's kind of a pain to run here for some people, but why should they come anyway?
You know what, it is a challenge, but you know, everybody's on the same playing field. What's fun is it is on the side of the mountain, so it's kind of unlike any other racetrack across the country, being nestled right up against the foothills. It is very picturesque to be able to look out over the city, and you know, even from the pit area, you can just walk to the edge and watch what's going on. So great vantage points.
Bandimere Speedway's been here for 60 years. What is it like to be a part of that heritage?
You know, it's really fun. You know, my grandfather started it for 2 reasons. One, he wanted a place where manufacturers could test product, and he also wanted a place where young kids could come and learn about the automobile, work on their cars, and have a safe place to go. And it just kind of grew from there. So to carry on that heritage is a lot of fun, and to watch the sport grow has been a lot of fun to be a part of.
Terry Waldrop is taking home the OPGI Original Award, and he's doing so in this 1966 Chevelle. Terry, this car is beautiful. How long have you had it?
Thank you. I've had it since 1973. It's my high school car. It was about 7 years old whenever I bought it. Actually, I bought it from a friend of mine, and he bought it, and then I bought it from him, and then we traded back and forth a couple of different times on it, and then I wound up with it. So, very interesting tale about the car.
But it hasn't been in this condition since 1973. Tell me the story about that.
Yeah, we just finished this. It's been about 2 years in June. And me and my son and some friends got it all tore down and just did a ground up restoration on it in my garage. And, you know, we just cleaned everything up on it and just had a lot of fun doing it. You know, it's set for a lot of years, and you know, people wanted to buy it. It's like, nah, I'm going to hang on to it. And we'll get it done one day. And finally, this is a finished product.
What is under the hood?
It is a 409-inch small block Chevrolet. Got a bunch of different race parts that we had in my son's Camaro, and we just took all that, and it makes about 614 horse, and it's quite fun.
Aside from the power plant, how important was it for you to keep this car looking original?
Very important. You know, that's what I really wanted, was to make it look, you know, new, but I wanted to keep, you know, just keep it looking original, and I think we've done that. You know, it's got a different hood on it, but it's still pretty much the original look to it. Put big brakes all the way around it. This car came with drum brakes all the way around before, so it makes a big difference in the way it stops. I thought that was a big deal, that, you know, we keep it almost all original. So.
Do you have plans to race it?
No. My son wants to race it. I'm like, I'd rather just cruise it and, you know, just enjoy it on the street.
Well, everyone's enjoying it here for sure. Winner of the OPGI Original Award. When we come back, we'll give you an up-close look at a wonder from down under. More Menards Chevy Show just around the corner.
Menards Chevy Show is brought to you by Heat Shield Products, America's high-performance insulation. R3 Performance, quality parts, attention to detail, and innovative design. Champion Cooling Systems, high-performance aluminum radiators. And by Borla, the world's most winning exhaust.
It's a picture-perfect day for a Menards Chevy Show here at Bandimere Speedway. And if you're a fan of cool classic cars, you've come to the right place. Well, the grill says Ford, but underneath it's all Chevrolet, and it belongs to Dale Rose. A gorgeous 1929 Ford Model A. Tell us about this car.
I built this car from the ground up. I'd seen some Woodies in a magazine and stuff, and I thought, well, I like woodworking and stuff, so I took a picture out of a magazine and made a few changes on the picture and stuff, and then I proceeded to build this one. It took me 4 years combined time. I did all the woodworking myself. I did everything myself, including rebuilding the engine. And the only thing I didn't do is I didn't sew the top, or I didn't sew the seats. Took it from there, and once I got it together, just drive it and have fun with it.
What do you like about the Chevrolet motor you have under the hood?
Well, it's small. It's easy to work on. You could buy parts literally anywhere, and it's easy to work. It's easy to diagnose problems, and it's a dependable engine. I don't know how many tens of thousands, if not millions, of small blocks were produced. I have people like yourself that has looked at my car and made comments and stuff, and it just makes me smile and proud. I drive this car. It's not a trailer baby. And I also believe in supporting the hobby and putting the seed into young people's heads about cars. So oftentimes you'll see me letting a child or a teenager or sometime even an adult sit in the car hoping that they'll get the bug.
Charles Kermis is the proud owner of our next producer's pick.
This is a 1965 Corvair, not a Corvette, and it's a Monza with the optional Corsa option of all the accoutrements of tacks and pressure gauges and large steering wheel and 8-track that was offered in '65. And I picked it up 8 years ago when my son said I needed a hobby after search and rescue volunteering. The only thing that I did with the car was just fix up the interior, hand-stitched, put in a little fuel pump that we need at this beautiful altitude here in Colorado to get it up over the mountains, and a couple of nice Coker Redline tires, and that's it. Nothing else is being done, and it's 18 years old in the paint.
Now, Corvairs don't usually have anything under the boot, but yours does. What an amazing collection that is.
Yes, one of the things that I like is I restore vinyl records, and I like to restore old historical documents. So for the time that I've owned it, I've been looking on eBay and anywhere I can find tools that were used to sell the car. What's fun at the Chevy show is that I'm able to show young kids and also us old folk how cars were sold through the documentation that I've collected, whether they be the original sales books, as well as film strips and records that taught salespeople how to sell against the various different competitors that were making cars in those days, including manuals and ads. So that's nice to maintain the legacy and the history that can be passed down generation to generation. And it's a lot of fun.
By the way, that car was once owned by Hollywood legend Omar Sharif. No joke. And this producer's pick is no joke either. In fact, it's probably the coolest car you've never heard of.
It is a 2016 Holden HSV Maloo LSA from Australia. That's why the steering wheel is on the wrong side at the moment.
How did you get this thing?
That's what I do. I bring them here, convert them to U.S. standards for the U.S. market. LSA is the original motor. It came with this car. When HSV in 2015 decided that all their Maloo packages would come with LSAs only, and that's why they're LSAs. And they're from the Camaro, ZL1 Camaros, the 2013 to 16 is the same LSAs in this, same specs. I always wanted an El Camino, and my friend and I, we have business in this, decided that one day I want an El Camino, but we can't get them. Well, they're in Australia. So we decided we'd get one, and that was how we started it. And started doing the conversions, and then one guy walked in the shop and said, I'll buy it from you. And we're like, you mean we can sell these things? And that's where we've been doing it since 2011.
Well, the bad news is we are out of time here in Denver, but the good news is you can catch us again next week. We'll see you on our next Menards Chevy Show.